Hello, hello, hello. This is Rachel over at Moonlight Library. I'm here today for a Pride, I was about to say reading vlog. This is not a reading vlog. This is recommendations. Yes. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, welcome here. Be sure to subscribe. If you're not new here, welcome back. Happy to see you. Happy to have you. Let us chat about some Pride recommendations I have for you. Once again, Rachel, pronouns she, they. So let's get into it. I filmed this earlier, like a couple days ago, and I was not in the right headspace. It was not a good time. There was a lot of, I don't know, and I couldn't remember any character's name of any book I was recommending, so dear Lord. Scary. We are going to run through some books I have to recommend to you. I'm going to pull up my little thing. I have separated them into sweet, hot, real, something else, and what. And so let's start with the sweeties, the cuties, the super sweet cuties. And obviously, if we're talking about sweet, we're talking about Heartstopper, Alice Oseman. We have Nick and Charlie. It's a graphic novel series, and it is originally published on Webtoons, and it's about them falling in love in high school in England and learning about their sexuality and just, figuring it all out together. And their friends are cute. They're cute. I love Alice Oseman's universe, the Osmanverse, and beautiful. Next up is My Brother's Husband by Gengoro Tagame, and this one we are following a man who is Japanese in Japan with his daughter, who his brother, who had moved to Canada and married a man, has passed away, and his brother's husband is coming to visit to learn more about his brother's culture, his family, where he came from, and all of that. And it is just so sweet, a story of learning and acceptance. Yes. For some of these, I might read a bit of the synopsis because it's been a while. I can tell you that I love the books, but the brain ain't always here. So we have Felix Ever After by Case and Calendar, and this one we're following Felix Love has never been in love, and yes, he's painfully aware of the irony. He desperately wants to know what it's like and why it seems so easy for everyone but him. It's a story of him figuring out his identity, both his gender and his sexuality, and so sweet and real too. So next up is our hot category, and the first one I actually have the book. So this one is Kiss Her Once for Me by Alison Cochrane, and we're following Ellie, that's her name, and Ellie is demisexual like moi, and she also is just figuring out her life in general. I just threw my phone. She's figuring out her life and what she's doing because she's very anxious, let go from her job as I was gonna say content creator, that's not true, and like a animator, and she's working this dead-end coffee house job that she no longer knows her worth, and she ends up in a fiancé-ship engagement of convenience with this guy who happens to have her getting back in contact with a girl that she had one night over Christmas with last year. And it is, it wasn't the book for me, but it doesn't mean it's not the book for everyone. I just felt like I resembled Ellie a little too much, and it made me anxious because I deal with anxiety, and it was too much for me. I was like, you are just being me, and I cannot read me. I'm reading to escape. So, but there's some pretty hot scenes, so that is definitely a hot one. The next one is Get a Life. Whoop, got my phone. Get a Life, Danny Brown. it's like I want to take a hint, Danny Brown. It's Get a Life, Chloe Brown. Anyways, Take a Hint, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. What is up with my brain? My brain's not here again, but it's fine. It's much better. Trust me. Just sit here with me because it's real and it's better. Take a Hint, Danny Brown. We have bisexual representation in a woman who is falling for a man, but that does not mean that she's not bisexual, because bi erasure is a real thing. And just because you're bisexual does not mean you are straight by being with a man. And it's hot. That's all I gotta say. It is a hot one. Is it a fake date? I think it's fake dating is kind of the trope in this one. So loved it. Oh my God. Talia Hibbert, though. She has my soul. She has my heart. Tell the Wolves I'm Home by Carol Rivka Brunt. This one takes place in the 80s. We have June. Her uncle, Finn, has just passed away. At the funeral, there's a man there who turns out to be her Uncle Finn's life partner, and she gets to know him, and it's a lot about acceptance and learning because it's during the AIDS epidemic, and a lot of people fearful of even being in the same room or being near someone who has AIDS, and learning about the fact that that is not true, or like that you can't catch AIDS like that, taking away from the fear. If that makes sense? Yes? Anyways, very good book. The Town of Babylon, and this is by Alejandro Varela. I'm just going to read you the synopsis. When his father falls ill, Andres, a professor of public health, returns home, reevaluating a rocky marriage in the wake of his husband's infidelity, and with little else to do, he decides to attend his 20-year high school reunion, where he encounters the long-lost friends of his youth, one of which was someone who helped him to discover his sexuality. And that's all I'll say. Next is Genderqueer by Maya Kobabe. Why? I can never say that last name. I'm going to read you the synopsis. It is a graphic novel, graphic memoir. So this is about Maya, who is ear pronouns, thought that a comic of reading statistics would be the last autobiographical comic E would ever make. At the time, it was the only thing E felt comfortable with strangers knowing about M. Now Genderqueer is here. Maya's intensely cathartic autobiography charts a journey of self-identity, which includes the mortification and confusion of adolescent crushes, grappling with how to come out to the family and society, bonding with friends over erotic gay fan fiction, and facing the trauma of pap smears. I don't know why I had to shut my eye the entire time while I read that. Sometimes I shut this eye a lot. My eyeballs, they've wronged me. The next one is Fun Home by Alison Bechdel, and if you haven't read Alison Bechdel, you should probably get on that, because she has a way with words, and she's just so smart. She's so smart. Like, she feels so smart. So this one is about both her coming out as a lesbian and in college, and finding out that her husband, her father, is a closeted gay man, and it's just beautiful. I constantly think about him reading Proust, and that comes up a lot in my brain. That's another graphic memoir. The next one is Memorial by Brian Washington. I probably should have had like a real, as in like real memoir section, because there are 3 of them and they're separated by memorial. So Memorial by Brian Washington. This is a fiction book, and this is Benson and Mike are 2 young guys who live together in Houston. Mike is a Japanese American chef at a Mexican restaurant, and Benson's a black daycare teacher, and they've been together for a few years, good years, but now they're not sure why they're still a couple. There's the sex, sure, and the meals Mike cooks for Benson, and well, they love each other. And then there's this kind of swapping places thing that happens, where Mike goes home to Japan to be with his father, while Mike's mother happens to be coming to Houston and stays with Benson. And it's just this strange, interesting novel that very literary fiction would recommend. So the last one in this section is In the Dream House by Carmen Maria Machado. This is a memoir. Not a graphic memoir, a memoir. And this is Carmen thinking back, ruminating on an abusive relationship she was in with this woman in Iowa, I believe, and just everything she went through in this relationship. It's told in very short chapters that are easy to get through, and so many interesting chapters. Like at one point, she is analyzing Amy Mann's like body of work. Then another chapter, she has a choose your own adventure going on. It's beautiful. Next section is Something Else. Something Else is more like fantasy and such like that. We have Silver in the Woods by Emily Tesh. I actually own that novel and I just didn't grab it. It was hiding from me. Here it is. So this one is, there's a wild man who lives in the deep quiet of Green Hollow, and he listens to the wood. Tobias, tethered to the forest, does not dwell on his past life, but he lives a perfectly unremarkable existence with his cottage, his cat, and his dryads. So what ends up happening is we have Henry Silver, who comes into the scene and meets Tobias, and sweet, but at the same time a little scary, and it is definitely feels like a fable, like a folklore happening, and it's really beautiful. Next up, we have House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune, and this one is Linus Baker is a by-the-book caseworker with the department in charge of magical youth. At 40, he lives in a tiny house all alone with his cat. I'm actually paraphrasing this. Linus is summoned by extremely upper management that he has to work a highly classified case of magical children who are quite dangerous. He ends up going there, and Linus meets Arthur, and Arthur is the foster father, and it's really sweet. The children are sweet. The two of them are sweet, and I loved it. Everyone loved it. Everyone loved it. Okay, next is The Magic Fish. Magic Fish is by Trung Le Nguyen, and this is Tien loves his family and his friends, but Tien has a secret he's been keeping from them, and it might change everything. This is a graphic novel too. An amazing YA graphic novel. It just said it. Okay, so it's both juxtaposing fairy tales with the real world of him coming to figuring out his sexuality. And it is... Next section is what? Because, we need some representation in every genre, not just fiction and real stories and stuff like that, but we need it in our horror. We need it in our weird thrillers. We need it everywhere. So the first one that I'm going to talk about is You've Lost a Lot of Blood by Eric LaRocca. This one is... I'm not reading the back of that because that'd be confusing for you. It is about this guy, Martyr Black. He is a serial killer sort of thing. He's a murderer, and it is a compilation of his audio logs of him talking to his boyfriend and his novel or novella that he's written and poetry and all sorts of different things. And it is a wild ride. And Eric LaRocca in general filled with LGBTQIA plus representation, so I would pick him up. This is the only one I've read, but I've heard that all of his stuff has representation. Next up is House of Hunger by Alexis Henderson. This is some good lesbian representation along with vampires, so don't we love it? So we have this girl, her name is I can never remember someone's name, Marion. And Marion lives in the slums. And to get out of the slums, something she can do is sell herself as a blood maid to people in the north, which she ends up doing. And she works for this house, the House of Hunger. And what happens is there are these rich people that drink blood maid's blood to stay healthy and alive. And then she ends up forming relations. So, yeah. The next one that I own in this stack is Mostly Dead Things by Kristen Arnett. I put this one in this section, even though it's not horror and it's not thriller, but what's happening here is we have Jessa Lynn is a taxidermist, and she is grieving the loss of her father, I believe, and her mother is... her mental health is kind of struggling, and she ends up, like, her mother is taking the taxidermied animals and putting them in sexual, like, positions. This is good lesbian representation, though. Also, Kristen Arnett is a local author to where I live, and we went to school together, so... that's interesting. So the next one is So Happy For You by Celia Lasky. A wedding weekend spirals out of control in this bold, electrifying, hilarious novel. Robin and Ellie have been best friends since childhood. When Robin came out, Ellie was there for her. When Ellie's father died, Robin had her back. This is like taking place in a world where it's like the marriage industrial complex. This is kind of a thriller, and they do these things called wedding charms, where it's like little rituals and superstitions that can get a little out of hand in order to make it so your marriage is prosperous and good. So Ellie's getting married, and she invites Robin to be her best maid of honor, I think. It gets real wild. So the last one that we're going to talk about is Fierce Femmes and Notorious Liars. This one I definitely need to read you the thing. So this is by Kai Cheng Tom. Highly sensational, ultra exciting, sort of true coming of age story of a young Asian trans girl, pathological liar, and kung fu expert who runs away from her parents' abusive home in a rainy city called Gloom. And it is crazy. This is a wild one. Anyways, so that's the end of my recommendations. If you have any recommendations for me, or if you want to leave some Pride recommendations in the bottom, then please do. Happy Pride. Happy. I'm gonna end up doing a Pride reading vlog later this month, and I'm pretty excited about it because I have a good amount of different books that I have been meaning to read, have been sitting on my TBR, and I cannot wait. So thanks for being here. Leave a pride flag emoji. Obviously. Okay, bye.